AITA for telling my wife to enjoy her trip before exposing her secret wedding plan? The message arrived at 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday while I was reviewing quarterly reports at my desk. The notification ping made me glance at my phone, thinking it was a grocery list or a message about dinner. But what I saw on the screen changed everything. I'm leaving you for someone who truly loves me. Don't try to stop me. I stared at the screen for a good 10 seconds. Not because I was devastated or in shock, but because I was genuinely impressed by her audacity. After 12 years of marriage, this was how she decided to end it all, with a simple text worthy of a teenage drama. My first instinct wasn't to call her, or rush home, or demand an explanation. In fact, I almost smiled. The woman who could never decide what to order at a restaurant had just made the biggest decision of her life via text message. The irony was perfect. I replied in 4 words, "Have a nice trip." Then I put the phone down and went back to my reports. But of course, my mind was no longer on the numbers. It was calculating something entirely different. You see, my wife always thought I was the weak one in the relationship. The guy who does the dishes without being asked, who never forgets an anniversary, who apologizes first even when it's not his fault. She mistook kindness for weakness, patience for stupidity. That was her first mistake. Her second was believing I would fall apart without her. I finished my day as if nothing had happened. I answered emails, attended a meeting, and even grabbed a coffee with a colleague who told me about his excellent divorce attorney. Funny how certain conversations suddenly become relevant when you start paying attention. At 6 p.m., I was sitting in my car in the office parking garage, phone in hand, but I didn't call her. I called someone much more important. Price and Associates. Good evening. I need to speak with someone about a divorce tonight. The receptionist must have sensed the firmness in my voice because she didn't ask any questions. She scheduled an emergency consultation for me at 7:30 p.m. She called it an emergency. I called it perfect timing. On the drive home, I thought about the house. Our house, technically, but legally, it was a different story. When we bought it 8 years ago, my credit score was impeccable, my income stable. Hers, well, let's just say the bank didn't even want to consider it. So the mortgage, the title, all the important paperwork, everything was solely in my name. At the time, she'd said it didn't matter since we were married, partners, what's yours is mine, and all that romantic talk. I agreed because I loved her and trusted her. But I never added her to the deed. Honestly, I had forgotten. Sometimes, forgetfulness is the best form of preparation. The house was quiet when I walked in. Her SUV was gone, which meant she was probably at her new love's place, celebrating her great escape. I poured a glass of bourbon and sat in my favorite armchair, the one she said threw off the energy of the room. The silence had a different flavor now, not empty, but clean, like the air after a thunderstorm. My phone buzzed with messages from her friends, the very ones who probably knew everything before I did. Are you okay? If you want to talk, we're here. That must have been a shock. I deleted them all without replying. Their hollow compassion was almost insulting. At 7:25 p.m., I was sitting across from Dawson Price, one of the most ruthless divorce attorneys in the city. Exactly what I had hoped for. Impeccable suit, piercing gaze, and a smile that clearly said someone was about to be financially dissected. "So," he said, reading my notes, "she left, the house is in your name, and you want to act fast?" "Not fast," I replied, decisively. "That's music to my ears," he responded with a grin. For an hour, Price laid out a plan that was as legally sound as it was poetically just. An emergency divorce filing, in order to protect my assets, and something he called swift justice for the emotionally irresponsible. The man was an artist. "One last question," he said, packing up his leather briefcase. "Do you think she'll try to come back and fight this?" I thought of the woman who would apologize even when the waiter got her order wrong. "She made her choice," I replied, and she announced it proudly. Let's see how proud she is when she realizes the true cost of her decision. Price's smile widened, almost predatory. This is going to be fun. Leaving the firm, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Total control. Not the illusion of control over small things. No, real control, the kind that comes from having better information, better preparation, and better instincts than everyone else around you. My wife thought she was writing the end of our marriage. What she didn't know was that she had just handed me the pen. The next morning, I woke up with the kind of clarity you only feel after making a life-altering decision. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. Not because the alarm forced me to, but because my mind was already 3 steps ahead of the day. The coffee tasted better. The morning news seemed less depressing. Even my reflection in the mirror had changed, more focused, more alive. By 6 a.m., I was already implementing the first phase of what Price called strategic preparation. First step, the bank. The joint checking account we had shared for 12 years was about to become a lot less joint. The teller, a woman in her 50s who had handled our account from the beginning, looked surprised when I asked to transfer the entire balance to my personal account. "Is everything all right, sir? Will your wife be coming in?" My wife is pursuing new interests. I am pursuing financial security. She didn't ask any more questions. A smart woman. Then came the credit cards, the same ones she had used the night before to celebrate her newfound freedom at a trendy downtown restaurant. I knew because she had posted it on Instagram. A champagne glass raised as if she'd won the lottery. Location tagged. The man's face half visible in the background. She was so proud of her secret, she couldn't help but show it off. Canceling those cards took me exactly 4 calls. Each customer service representative offered their condolences when I explained the situation. Apparently, marital abandonment by text is a reason they're quite familiar with. By 9 a.m., I was back at work, but the office had a different feel. Conversations with colleagues seemed different. When my director talked about budget cuts and restructuring, I listened with a much sharper ear. When HR came by discussing employee retention strategies, I took mental notes. At lunchtime, I did a little reconnaissance. Her Instagram account was a masterclass in poor decision-making. A photo of last night's dinner, breakfast in bed, clearly at the other guy's apartment, and a selfie with the caption, "Finally living my authentic life." The comments were fascinating. Her friends sent hearts, and "You deserve to be happy." Her new partner's friends asked, "Who's the new girl?" Her family, confused, clearly caught off guard. But the best comment came from the man's ex-wife. "Good luck with that one." I screenshotted everything. Price had told me that social media evidence was always useful, especially when it reveals reckless and impulsive behavior. Around 2 p.m., my phone started buzzing. Messages from her, increasingly desperate. "We need to talk. You're being ridiculous. This involves both of us. Answer me." I only replied once. "All communication must go through my attorney, Dawson Price of Price and Associates. He is expecting your call." The silence that followed was golden. At 4 p.m., Price called me back with an update. She made contact. She wants to discuss reasonable arrangements. It seems she's running into some financial difficulties. "What kind of difficulties?" I asked. "The kind that happens when all your cards are declined and the bank account is at 0. Go figure." "And that's not all," he added. I did some digging on her new partner. Divorced a year ago, pays generous alimony, and is 3 months behind on his rent. Your wife certainly knows how to pick them. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place faster than I could have imagined. Her one true love was a walking financial disaster, and she had just hitched her wagon to a sinking ship. That evening, I changed all the passwords, email, banking apps, streaming services, even the Wi-Fi. Each change felt like freeing myself from a chain I didn't even know I was wearing. The house felt different too, not empty but vast. I ordered a pepperoni pizza from the place she hated. Watched the game on ESPN with the volume cranked up. Left the dishes in the sink with no one to complain. Small freedoms that, when added together, formed something immense. Around 10 p.m., I heard her SUV in the driveway. She still had a key, of course, but she was about to find out that the key would be the least of her problems. I heard the door open, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor, and her honeyed voice calling my name, full of an artificial sweetness that could no longer hide anything. She found me in the living room, reading peacefully in my favorite chair. "We need to talk," she said, standing in the doorway as if she still owned the place. I looked up from my book and observed her. Designer clothes she could no longer afford. Jewelry likely gifted by him. Makeup that served as armor. She looked like a miscast actress playing the role of her own life. "About what?" I asked. "About us, about the situation, about being adults and taking responsibility for our choices." I calmly closed the book and set it on the table. "You mean talk about the fact that you ended your marriage via text message and are now facing the consequences?" Her confidence wavered. You canceled my cards. You emptied our account. I protected my assets from someone who publicly announced she was no longer part of my life. That's not how a marriage works, she retorted. I stood up slowly, with intention. You're absolutely right, I replied. A marriage requires commitment, communication, and mutual respect. You offered none of the three. Therefore, we are no longer bound by the rules of marriage. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time in 12 years, she had nothing to say. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You made your choice, now you're going to have to live with it. The look on her face was worth 12 years of putting up with her nonsense. Saturday morning, the sound of the moving truck in my driveway was the most satisfying thing I'd heard in a long time. She was actually going through with it, packing her things as if it were some grand romantic gesture and not the impulsive decision of someone completely detached from reality. I watched her from the kitchen window as she ordered the two movers around, puffed up with authority. Her new boyfriend hovered nearby, agitated, with the nervousness of a man who is starting to realize what he's gotten himself into. He checked his phone every minute and glanced at my neighbor, who, by the way, was thoroughly enjoying the free entertainment. Around noon, she knocked on the door. She didn't use her key this time. That small detail was enough for me to understand how much her perspective had already shifted. I'm taking the bedroom furniture, she announced as soon as I opened the door. No, you're not. It was a wedding gift from my mother. Your mother gave us cash, and we bought that furniture with my money. Her face went through several expressions before settling on indignation. You can't keep everything. I'm not keeping everything. You can take everything you brought into this marriage, your clothes, your personal belongings, and that collection of self-help books you never read. The boyfriend tried to step in, taking a step forward with a protective male posture. About my height, but with a softer body that hadn't seen a real fight since high school. Look, man, maybe we can work this out. I stared at him without a word until he looked away. The adults are talking. She grabbed his arm, stopping him from replying. That simple gesture was enough to show who really wore the pants in their relationship. Fine, she said. Let him keep the furniture. We'll buy better stuff. With what money? I wondered, but I refrained from saying it. The move took 3 hours. 3 hours of watching her pack up pieces of a life she had thrown away with a single text message. Her friends came to help, the same ones who had sent me messages of support. They avoided my gaze. Smart of them. By 3 p.m., she was gone. The house echoed differently now, but it was a good echo. Clean honest. On Sunday, I spent the day rearranging, reclaiming the spaces that had been molded to someone else's tastes. The living room breathed better without her useless decorative pillows. The kitchen worked better without the overpriced appliances she had only used once. Monday, Phase 2, serving the papers. Price had recommended a top-tier process server, a woman who looked like a librarian but moved like a shark. She'll be at their apartment around noon, he had told me. Public servings are much more effective when there's an audience. I was in a meeting when Price called with the update. Delivery successful. She opened the door in a bathrobe. He was behind her, asking what was going on. The neighbors got a good show. And her reaction? I asked. Like someone who just found out that actions have consequences. She kept repeating that you would never have the courage to do this, all while holding the divorce papers. Tuesday, my phone became a battlefield. Calls, texts, voicemails from her friends, her mother, all with the same tone of panic disguised as outrage. Her mother's voicemail deserved a special mention. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this is not how you were raised to treat family. I deleted it without a second thought. The woman who had raised a daughter capable of ending a marriage by text had a funny idea of what good manners were. Wednesday, the first crack in their new relationship appeared. She posted a cryptic story on Instagram. Some people don't know how to fight for what matters. No picture of him, no location, no more trace of the happy couple. By Thursday, the cracks had become fractures. The boyfriend posted a message on Facebook about unexpected complications and needing time to think. His friends started commenting. You might want to rethink things. Red flags everywhere, bro. Thursday night, she called me from a blocked number. You're destroying my life. I'm simply protecting mine. He's having doubts now. He says the legal proceedings are too complicated. A smart man. Smarter than I thought. This isn't a game. I have nowhere to go. You had somewhere to go? You had a home, a marriage, a life. And you traded it all for someone who jumped ship at the first sign of trouble. The silence lasted for nearly a minute. When she spoke again, her voice was weaker, trembling. We can fix this. We could go to couples therapy. The time to fix things was before you announced to the world that you were leaving me for someone better. The time for therapy was before you made your decision public and irreversible. I made a mistake, she whispered. No, you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice, a public and permanent choice. And now, you're going to have to live with it. Please. That single word carried 12 years of history, but it came 12 years too late. My lawyer will contact you regarding the division of assets and the legal proceedings. Until then, all communication will go through him. I hung up. Then I blocked the number. Friday afternoon. The most satisfying call of the week came from Price, who was trying to hold back his laughter. He broke up with her this morning. Said he couldn't handle the drama and the legal complications. She's looking for a place to stay because, apparently, his apartment was never a permanent option. And where is she now? I asked. According to my sources, in a Starbucks downtown, calling everyone she knows to ask for a couch. The woman who had left me for someone who truly loved her was now homeless because that love had evaporated the moment official papers and consequences arrived. Justice has a wonderful sense of timing. On Saturday, I woke up to rain, the perfect backdrop for what was happening on the other side of town. I learned the details from her sister, who called me feigning concern. She's calling everyone for help. Mom and Dad won't even pick up anymore. Smart parents. I'm serious. She's talking about sleeping in her car. She should have thought of that before setting her own life on fire for someone who can't even stand the heat from the flames. Silence on the other end. Then a change in tone. You know she didn't mean what she said. She was lost in a difficult moment. She believed it enough to pack her bags and leave, enough to announce it on social media, enough to sign her own divorce with her actions. The only thing she doesn't understand now is that actions have consequences. I hung up, poured myself a coffee, and opened Zillow on my tablet. Not because I wanted to move, but out of curiosity. The house had gained a tremendous amount of value since we bought it. Her timing, as always, was spectacularly bad. Around noon, Price called back, laughing as if he'd just witnessed a tragic comedy. She showed up at his apartment building with her bags, wanting to talk. He didn't even let her pass the lobby. The doorman had to escort her out. Cruel but predictable, I replied. Even better. She went to his workplace to talk about their relationship. Security had to intervene. His colleagues got quite a show. The woman who had left me for someone who truly loved her was now being treated like a stalker by that same man. The irony was so perfect it felt scripted. Saturday afternoon. I had an unexpected visitor. Her mother. She stood at the door with the air of someone who had come to negotiate a hostage release. We need to discuss this situation like adults, she said. I invited her in. I had always respected this woman, despite our profound disagreement on how she had raised her daughter. She sat in the living room where she had been so many times before. But this time, she looked around as if she were seeing it for the first time. She made a mistake, she began. No. She made a choice, a public, deliberate, and conscious choice. She's my daughter. She's scared and alone. She is an adult who announced to the entire world that she was leaving her husband for another man. And now, that adult is living with the natural consequences of what she announced. The mother looked around, noting the absence of her daughter's things and the masculine simplicity that remained. You've changed. I've simply stopped believing that being reasonable means tolerating the irrational. What do you want out of all this? What is your goal? I want to rebuild my life without someone who thinks commitment is optional and consequences are negotiable. I want to wake up tomorrow knowing that the person by my side has chosen to be there, not that they are staying out of financial convenience. She left without achieving the objective of her visit. Sunday evening brought the most revealing development. Her best friend, or rather, her ex-best friend now, called me. They had been inseparable since college. I think you should know. She tried to stay with me. Tried. Yes. I said no. I saw this disaster coming for months. She spent all her time complaining about you, flirting with the other guy, making plans behind your back. I told her she was playing with fire, but she called me jealous and controlling. And why are you telling me all this now? Because she showed up at my place last night, looking for pity and a couch. And she had the audacity to say you were being cruel and vindictive for not taking her back after her experiment failed. The audacity was staggering. She saw her affair and abandonment as a mere experiment and expected me to be waiting with open arms for the results. She's burning bridges faster than she can build them, her friend continued. Everyone is sick of the drama. She's become impossible to be around. Monday, the news got even better. Her financial situation had gone from comedy to pure tragedy. Price's investigator had done an impeccable job. She maxed out her credit card trying to maintain her lifestyle while staying in a hotel. Her card provider lowered her limit yesterday, Price said. She applied for 3 different loans, all denied. And her job? I asked. She quit 2 weeks ago, said she was looking for new opportunities and claimed she wouldn't need to work anymore. The woman who had left me because I didn't provide enough excitement had quit her job to pursue a man who abandoned her in less than a week. Her strategic skills were spectacularly poor. Tuesday afternoon, I received a message from an unknown number. We could meet in a neutral place to talk. I showed it to Price, who burst out laughing. Neutral territory? What does she think this is? A peace negotiation in her head, probably. And your response? None. She made her position clear when she sent that first message. I don't negotiate with someone who has already declared war on me. Wednesday, the confirmation came. Her support network had collapsed. A mutual friend called me. She got kicked out of the place she was staying after only 2 days. She's telling everyone you ruined her life. What's the victim count? No one can stand listening to her anymore. And where is she now? I asked. From what I hear, she's looking for a cheap motel with weekly rates. The woman who had left me for a better life was now jobless, broke, friendless, and living day to day comparing prices of weekly motels. Her grand romantic adventure had turned a comfortable, middle-class wife into someone struggling to pay for a room by the week. Thursday evening, I was rereading the divorce papers when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw her, but it wasn't the same woman. She looked smaller, worn out, desperate. I opened the door without inviting her in. I know I messed everything up, she said. That's one way of putting it. I just want another chance, a real chance to fix things. You had 12 years of real chances, and you traded them all for someone who didn't even last a week with you. Her eyes filled with tears, but it was a performed sorrow, not a sincere one. Where am I going to go? That's a question you should have asked yourself before you left. I closed the door and went back to my papers. On the other side, I heard her sobs, but they sounded more like grief for a lost lifestyle than remorse from someone who finally understood what they had done. The sound gradually faded. Through the window, I saw her get into an old sedan I didn't recognize, probably borrowed or rented. She sat there for almost an hour, staring at the house she had abandoned, the life she had thrown away, the man she had underestimated. Then she started the car and drove off toward the rest of the future she had chosen. Friday morning, the autumn air was crisp, the kind that signals new beginnings. I was having my first peaceful breakfast in weeks when Price called with news that perfectly summed up the season. She's filed a counterpetition. She's claiming emotional distress, abandonment, and is demanding half of everything. On what grounds? I asked. According to her, your sudden coldness and financial manipulation forced her to seek comfort from another man. Her lawyer is trying to paint you as the villain who pushed her into infidelity. I almost laughed. So she's claiming I abandoned her after she literally sent me a message saying she was leaving me? Exactly. Their version is that you emotionally pushed her away, then punished her for seeking happiness. And our response? The proof. We have the original message, the Instagram posts celebrating her new relationship, and witnesses who confirm she left of her own free will. Her story doesn't even survive a basic fact check. Friday afternoon, validation came from an unexpected source. The ex-wife of her new partner called me directly. I hope you don't mind. I got your number from a mutual friend. I just wanted to warn you about what you're dealing with. I'm listening. She did the same thing to my ex-husband. She showed up during our divorce, made me out to be the bad guy, manipulated him with promises and grand gestures. And when she realized he couldn't offer her the lifestyle she wanted, she disappeared. How long did it last? About 3 weeks. She's an emotional predator. She targets vulnerable men and discards them as soon as they can no longer meet her demands. The pattern was clear. I wasn't the first, just the latest. The difference was, I refused to be the victim. Saturday, the final escalation went beyond comedy and into the absurd. I was working in my home office when I heard voices in the yard. Looking out the window, I saw her walking on the lawn with a man holding a clipboard, a real estate appraiser. I went outside immediately. The air seemed to drop 10 degrees as I approached. "What exactly are you doing on my property?" The appraiser turned pale. "Ma'am told me she had permission to be here." She lied. "This is my house. She no longer lives here, and you are trespassing on private property." She tried to maintain her composure. "I have rights as your wife. You have rights as my soon-to-be ex-wife. And none of them include bringing strangers to my home without my permission." The appraiser quickly gathered his things and scurried away. A wise man. "You can't cut me out of what's rightfully mine," she yelled. "I'm not cutting you out of anything that's rightfully yours, but this house isn't part of it. Your name is not on the deed, the mortgage, or any document that matters," I said. The mask fell completely. "You manipulated me. You put everything in your name to control me. I protected my assets because I was the one who worked for them. You benefited from that protection for 12 years. The moment you decided you no longer wanted it, you lost all access to it. My lawyer says I can claim an ownership stake. Your lawyer can claim whatever he wants as long as he's paid by the hour. What matters is reality, and that's what will prevail in court." She stood still for a moment, probably calculating her next move. Then she tried what she thought was her trump card. "I know about your 401k, your investment portfolio, your mutual funds. I'm entitled to half of everything accumulated during the marriage. You are entitled to exactly what the law grants you after the court considers your decision to leave your husband for another man." Her confidence wavered. "What does that mean?" "It means that in this state, adultery influences the division of assets, especially when it's documented, celebrated on social media, and confessed via text message." The color drained from her face. The consequences had finally arrived. Sunday, her sister called me. Her tone changed. "You need to understand. She's staying with acquaintances. She's wearing out everyone's patience. She's bitter, desperate. Sad, but not surprising. She's talking about doing something drastic. Maybe forcing you to take her back. How so? I don't know. But she keeps saying she won't let you in. Period." Monday, the drastic action arrived. Coming home from work, I found the front door ajar, voices inside. I immediately called Price. "She's here with people I don't know. Call the police now." Already on it. The patrol car arrived in minutes. Thankfully, the scene inside was worse than I had imagined. She had brought a locksmith and was trying to change the locks on my own house. The senior officer examined my property documents, looked at me, then looked at her. "Ma'am, this is not your residence. You need to leave immediately. I'm his wife. I have rights. You have the right to hire a lawyer and settle this in court, but you do not have the right to invade someone else's property." The locksmith quietly packed his tools. Professionals recognize trouble from a mile away. She tried one last time. "Officer, he's being vindictive. He locked his own wife out." "Ma'am, according to the documents, this house belongs to him. If you believe you have rights, prove it in court." As they escorted her out, I stood in the silence of my violated home, observing what she had touched, moved, tried to take. Desperation still lingered in the air. Tuesday, Price called with what sounded like the final act of a tragic opera. She was arrested last night. For what? Trespassing and attempted breaking and entering at her ex-boyfriend's place. She tried to get into his apartment through the fire escape. The woman who had left me for someone who truly loved her was now trying to break into his home like a common criminal. And now, she was released on bail, but a restraining order has been issued. She's not allowed within 500 feet of him or his home. And as for us, I'm filing for one today. This behavior is escalating. We need to ensure your legal safety. The next day, the order was signed. She was now legally prohibited from coming within 200 feet of me or my house. The woman who had slept beside me for 12 years was now legally barred from approaching me. Thursday, the last call came from her mother, weary, resigned. "She's moving back in with us. I'm sorry it's come to this." "No, you're not. But I don't blame you. I saw what she did, how she acted, the choices she made. This isn't the daughter I raised. People change. She didn't change. She just revealed who she was the day she thought she found something better. You're just the one who refused to keep pretending otherwise." I hung up in the quiet of my home, surrounded by the peace she had ironically given me. Her attempts to undo her own choices had only proven how right mine were. She wanted excitement, adventure, a man who would fight for her. She found one who knew exactly what she was worth and treated her accordingly. The difference between us was simple. She saw marriage as a safety net, something you could leave when you thought you found something better. I saw it as a foundation, something worth defending. Now, she was learning the difference between the two. A safety net catches you when you fall. A foundation keeps you from falling in the first place. She chose to jump, and I chose not to catch her. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized on a Tuesday that felt like any other, exactly as I wanted. No drama, no scene, no final plea. Just a few signatures making official what had started with a simple text message. Price called me with the final numbers. The house remains yours. Your retirement accounts remain untouched, and she receives exactly what she brought into the marriage, plus her personal effects, which amounts to about $3,000 and a used Honda Civic. The woman who had demanded half of everything was walking away with less than what many people spend on a long weekend. But in the end, she had set her own priorities. The day she chose excitement over stability. That afternoon, I drove past her parents' house. The old Honda was parked in the driveway, next to her father's pickup truck. Small, tired, defeated. Through the window, I saw some movement, probably her, helping with dinner or watching daytime television. 6 months earlier, she was posting stories about finally living her authentic life. At 34, she was now unemployed, living with her parents. She was also legally barred from approaching the man she had left me for. The karma was so perfect it felt scripted. I didn't feel a sense of triumph, just a sense of closure. The kind of peace you feel when you watch someone choose their own consequences and receive them exactly as they ordered. In the fall, I started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffees, dinners, conversations with women who understood that actions have consequences and words have weight. The difference was stark. My house became what it should have always been, a home for someone who truly deserved it. I redid the living room, renovated the kitchen, turned her old craft studio into a proper office. Every change felt like a reclamation of once occupied territory. One October evening, while I was grilling steaks on the barbecue, my neighbor told me he had seen her drive by that week. He said she slowed down, stopped for a few minutes, then drove off. Maybe out of curiosity, but he added that she looked different, older, more tired. That night, I thought about the woman who had once sent me that message. I'm leaving you for someone who truly loves me. Where was that love now? Where was all that excitement she was looking for? Where was that authentic life she proclaimed? She was living in her childhood bedroom, driving a 15-year-old car, and learning in the hardest way possible that excitement without a foundation is just chaos. Meanwhile, I was living in the house I had built, surrounded by the peace I had defended, building the future I had chosen to secure. The final irony came in November. Price forwarded me a message from her lawyer. She would like to know if you would be open to a post-divorce meeting to discuss mutual healing and emotional closure. I read the message twice and deleted it without replying. Some people spend their lives looking for someone to complete them. It took me 3 months to realize I was already whole. She thought that by leaving me, she would make me see what I had lost. But what I discovered was my own worth. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.